Welcome everyone to episode number 202 of NoCoders Office Hours. I'm your host Tanya, and I'm here with members Jonathan and Lachlan and Sushithra, who's from Ritesh's team. And we're going to get started in just a moment, but if this is your first time tuning into Office Hours, what it is we invite our Office Hours members to come on our Zooms, which we hold 6 times per week, and they can ask us any Bubble questions they want, and we do our best to get answers for them. And if you would like to have your Bubble questions answered, you can join us if you go to pronocoders.com and sign up. And we'd love to see you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Jonathan, Lachlan, do you have anything for this evening?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to applying dynamic colors to, I guess, elements in my app on page load, because we want to essentially make like a branding tool that we can control via API for colors and stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, if it's all right, I want to show you like what we're trying to do and if it's the right thing. Yep. Cool. Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So at the moment, what we've got is we've basically got like a local storage that normally would allow us to call an API to get a value. And then we're using the value to set a state on like a custom element, which is this little element here. And then in the actual panel that we're looking to recolor, we're setting that value here. Is that correct? Is that what you would do?
Yeah, that seems fine to me.
Cool. Yeah. The only issue is I noticed that, like, I'll see if I can get this to show. No, it's not updating, but it does take like a good second to update. So I'm just wondering, like, yeah, is there any faster way to do it, or is that something we're just going to have to deal with?
So push local storage is an API call to what?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you go. When I use a logs in, it's just an authentication token, and that authentication token is what we're using to trigger the next call, which is the get users function, which is inside of that call houses the values for the colors that we're trying to change.
Got it. Is there do you think they're going to be changing their colors very often?
No.
So it might be better to actually store that in the Bubble database, so it's like it's very quick to load, and then have some sort of functionality that they can get to where they can like rerun that call if something changes. Or maybe you could set a recursive workflow just to check for a change every so often.
Yeah, we can get that set up. I guess it's just because we can't reference a user specifically, because the user authentication is happening through our backend. What would we do, I guess, to make sure that the data is there available? Because we still need to, when the user logs in, we've got an authentication token only. We still need to do a call to get the user info. So would we do that perhaps on our login page and then somehow send that data through to our next page to be able to display the colors quickly?
I'm thinking.
Because, yeah, we don't actually log in at all, as you can see. We work off an auth token.
Got it. So all of your user information is being stored in Xano.
Correct. So it's kind of hard to reference something specifically without first doing an API call. So maybe we need to, before we even load a page, somehow, I don't know, store that data to be able to be referenced when we do load the page. So that way it's pulling that information from the Bubble database as soon as it loads.
Could we just have the logins the same across both databases, and then in addition to performing the auth login through Bubble as well?
Well, I mean, the normal way of doing like authorization tokens or whatever is the OAuth is normally just replacing the password, right, for the user to log in and actually be logged in as a user in Bubble. Is there a reason that you don't, I mean, besides having to maintain two databases, which brings up complexity in and of itself, is there a purpose that Xano is serving by doing all of the user information and none of it stored in Bubble?
No, look, I'm completely open to having a dual database if it's going to improve performance. So it's just a matter of getting it set up really and understanding how we can have it authenticate both systems at the same time. We only know how to set up Xano, I guess, to dual authentication through there. So I wouldn't know how to also do it for Bubble as well at the same time.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I think, I mean, so can you show me the login page? Like,
in terms of the workflow, or?
Yeah, just in terms of what the user's seeing and then the workflow. So it's email and password. Okay.
Yep.
And then they're logging in. Then you could store the auth stuff in their user record.
So just get them to basically simultaneously load in with those details in addition to the Xano ones. So so have the username and password the same across both, you mean?
Well, no, I guess I think what we need to do is authenticate through Xano like we currently are, but then also authenticate Bubble as well at the same time by
when it's authenticated in Xano, then it's authenticated in Bubble.
Yeah, so we just skip the password input component for Bubble and we just authenticate it based on receiving the token from Xano.
Yeah.
So logging the user in like this as well?
Or setting up some kind of, because the password.
Well, I could set the password in Xano and then we could basically call that password into Bubble essentially, and that would then authenticate, right?
Yeah, if you can make the passwords the same, then yeah, absolutely, that would work.
So you're saying perform an API call before we log in?
I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of like when I have a user log in with Google, they click the button and then they choose their accounts that are available to them that they're logged into Google, and they click the button and then Bubble knows their email address from that, which identifies the user record, and it doesn't require the password because it's got the auth tokens, right? So that's the kind of setup that you might be able to do with Xano. I'm just I've never worked with Xano personally.
Yeah, I think we could make that work. I think that, that's puts us in the right direction. And then we'll have, I think that's a good idea because that's going to make it so much easier to reference styles and stuff inside of Bubble compared to having to get the data then display it because it's just too slow.
Yeah, it'll be a lot faster that way. And there'll be a lot of like little things, little details that'll be faster if you can store them in Bubble.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think I've got a pretty good plan how to do that. So if we get stuck, we can just send a question.
Yeah. If you get stuck, I was just thinking Cameron, who is new to our team, but he's fantastic with getting OAuth and stuff to work. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, no worries.
I guess the next one we'd really like to look at is the upcoming bookings and how to get the repeating group header to work with the repeating group.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did anyone else have questions? I just noticed there was more people in.
Yep. Let's just see. Harsha or Sushitra, do you have any questions for me today?
Hi, Tony. No questions from my side. Thanks.
Nope. Okay. And then Alexandra, you're welcome. How are you?
Hi. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. How's it going?
Good. I do have a question if there's still time.
Yeah, there is. plenty of time.
Should I share screen?
Yep, you should be able to take over and share.
Let me just pull this up. Okay. I just kind of want to know if there's a better way to organize it. Also because I'm just kind of lazy. And so we have a lot of the data already in the database, like 110 hotels.
Mhm.
So I don't want to have to go back and like re-tag all the data. But with this search bar right now, I have these all work, right? So it's pulling the information based on in the data, the types that are like I made a room inventory one and then regions for the search to be able to pull from there, right? So in this sense, do I still have to make a separate like data point or data type in order for it to pull this? Because it's not really pulling this way.
Okay, so search for hotels, each item's meeting spaces square fit. Okay, so what is that button supposed to do? It's not a button. It's supposed to show you something?
Yeah, it's supposed to filter those that like match that specific criteria. But it's not, because this search thing won't let it sorry.
Gotcha. Okay.
An independent data type, right? So there's no way around that. I just basically have to like because then what happens is like the data that's in the app, I have to go in and fill in region, fill in room inventory.
So each hotel has a square foot thing?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
And then each one has, for example, I'm trying to find one that works. I made this one, but I just haven't filled in the live data. But for example, sustainability, that's not it. There was another. Yeah, so this one, for example, venue sustainability is for it to, or star ratings, probably a better one. Sorry, guys. That it will pull it where the data actually can pull, because it can't go in and pull. Oh, maybe it would. Amenities search. That's what I mean. So if I put that this way and just did the same formula that I have here, technically, sometimes we just need to talk it out, right? If I put that there, would that work? Search for meeting space square foot and then have it filter with what matches?
So you're kind of going, I'm still wrapping my head around. So each of these are a filter, and is it filtering the repeating group? Is that what you're filtering?
Yes.
Okay.
So the idea here, for example, I filter amount of rooms. So, but what I had to do was create another data type for it to filter the repeating group. But now I'm trying to see if there's a way to do that without having to create another data type and then have double data. Does that make sense?
I don't,
because when
you shouldn't have to have double data for this. So go into the repeating group.
And that's the thing. So I have this one and then I have that one. So I have it doubly filtered. Which
Okay,
is
well,
wrong.
what is hotel? Yeah, so hotel search is just a group. And so you're just populating it with one hotel, and I don't think that's what you're trying to do. So you could take that, the not the repeating group, but the group, you could just delete the data source and type of content altogether.
Okay.
Because that's only giving you one thing. It's not giving you all of the things.
Things. Okay, so I'll write that down because I'm a little scared to do it right now.
Sure. And then in the repeating group, which is what you're really interested in filtering, if you click into that repeating group again. So now search for hotels. And now what you have here is you have a bunch of constraints, right? And I'm guessing at the bottom, do you have it checked to ignore empty constraints? Okay. And then the square foot thing that's another constraint that you could add to this search. The thing that we usually do though is you're constraining the actual search here by those things, which is not actually constraining the search. You're changing the constraints on the search. I think maybe filtering might be better instead of doing the, so there's two ways to constrain what a repeating group is showing. One is in the main constraints, which is where you are now. The other is if you click more, next to search for hotels, and type filter.
Filtered.
And then you add a new constraint. You can add your constraints there and it will filter it down. Now, most of the time I recommend if you already have all of the information that they're searching for, then using the constrained search makes sense. I don't know if it matters if you leave it the way that you have it or not. My sense is that every time I've ever seen it done, it's always been done with filtering, right?
Okay.
Like you ask Bubble to go and get more information and then you filter it down from there.
Okay.
But
needing space.
But is it slow at all with the 110 hotels?
The app itself is not really so it's actually working, which is, it's working because of the amount of, it's actually okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's doing all new searches.
No, because it populates, like all of it technically is already in. And so it, like, if you scroll all the way down, which I might need to just filter it where it only shows like 9, like it will show all of, like, these are all the hotels in this one because this is in development. But if I do it in live, you should be able to scroll through all the 100 hotels.
Okay.
So it's just getting these to actually filter without having to add. I just didn't want to add another data type because then I would have to like go in and manually like repopulate that for all of the ones that are already there.
What are you calling a data type? You mean a field?
Like what I had with data type here for it to pull technically, but then I realized that it doesn't need to. That I was wrong. That doesn't need to.
Yeah, so it seems like these should just be not separate data types, but fields on the hotel in your database. And then that'll make it a lot easier for you to maintain your list. So
okay. And then the other.
So the thing that you would consider making an extra data type for a hotel is if it has multiple things of that field, right? So an example would be the amenities. Yeah. It makes sense for the amenities to be a separate data type. Anything where it's going to have a list of things on the hotel, then that would make sense to have a data type of that thing. But if it's just one thing for the hotel, then it should just be one field.
And I think it was because I was thinking of the Maybe we did do that in hotel where it was like if it's empty or like if it's an incomplete profile, and we did that as like a separate data type, I think. So I think that's where I got confused.
It's been so long. I'm not entirely sure. Like,
So
I
it was
don't-
more of like, so it wouldn't show the profiles that were incomplete. So we did like incomplete profiles, and I think we did it as a separate type, but now I can't find it. That's okay. Okay, that answers my question.
Okay. Cool. Yep. I think Ritesh is joining us. Hopefully. Hi, Ritesh. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Do you have any questions for this evening?
Oh, no one has any questions?
No. You happened to come in right as we were finishing up another question.
Okay. Probably you can continue with the other questions and I'll come back. I mean, just give me a couple of minutes to think.
Yeah, no
Okay.
worries. Jonathan and Lachlan?
Yeah, I'll just share my screen. Yeah, I had a question in regards to how I've done the heading with this repeating group.
Mm-hmm.
So what I actually had to do was basically just clone this repeating group here and sit it on top with the, obviously, each field with the heading. The only problem is if I make this smaller, you can still see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I make this smaller width-wise, it yeah, it gets to a point where basically these two groups are independently horizontally scrolling, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is we essentially want one scroll bar to align with this group as well. So I don't know if we can like sync a scroll bar against two elements perhaps, or what you would do here, or if we have to like abandon this setup altogether.
We did try another way where previously we had the title of the header item was actually a conditional object within the repeating group, and we're just making it only display within the first row. But the issue we had with that was it didn't really give us enough room within the repeating group to display the text how we wanted. But we did want to have, the header, like the name check-in, we wanted that to, at least line up and not obviously not work when it comes to mobile responsiveness.
And yeah, if we put it in the repeating group too, we can't have them aligned in the middle here, unless we were somehow able to skip the first record for the data and then have it display from item 2 downwards.
But yeah, we couldn't work out how to make it basically, start the first line of data in the second row.
Yeah.
Well, I could do that part where we say,
I'm not sure where that would go. Would that be based on the text element in here?
no, so that would actually be in the repeating group. It would be a conditional. So when we go to conditional, then define another condition.
Yep.
And then when current cell's index is 1. So,
Am I on the repeater? Yeah.
oh, hang on. No,
We
I
need to
guess
go into
that
the
would
repeating
work.
item, I guess.
We'd have to go into the item, I guess.
Yep, all good. So I guess I'll just do it. Oh, should I do it on the actual data piece or the heading?
On the data piece.
Yep.
In the group for the row, and then conditional. So define another condition. When current cell's index is 1. How did I do this before? element is trying to remember how I did this, because this is like how you do ads in a repeated group. It's like you specify different cells would have different like searches and stuff.
Mm.
Let me try to remember. Hang on a second, I'm going to take over the screen and
Yeah,
work
no worries.
Sandbox. Do a search for unique ID 1, which will never happen. First item, and then here in appearance, say labs when hidden, and so you can define another when this group JV post is empty or is not empty. Well, you would never have to make it. You wouldn't have to do anything. You just make it, this group here would be an alternative group to what's being held in that space.
Yep.
And then just, it would collapse. So it would just basically be an empty, like a disappearing row. Was that answering your question? I'm not sure if it did or not.
I don't know. I might be missing something. Sorry, but
So you
when
were
we're
like, you were trying to hide the information when.
Oh, we're trying to hide it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to have the first piece of data actually return in the second row. So that way, in the very first row, we can actually make our own header, which would be the titles of the columns.
Got
So
it.
that way we don't have to try and fit the title within the same repeating group as the values that we want, because there just isn't enough space to make the repeating group look good if we do that.
Got it. So what if we did something like this, where we add here header equals yes, no. And then you only have one of those. That equals yes, and all of the rest of them equal no. And then what you have in the repeating group is a search for JV posts where the header equals yes, and then merge it with a search for the rest of them.
So we'd merge that with our API response.
Yeah. And then the header equals no. So now you have one at the top, and then you can say here, the condition can be the header group shows here when the parent group header is yes. Parent group saying header is yes, right? And so, and then the rest of the data shows normally.
Perfect. That sounds like a work. I'll just have to read it back again.
Okay.
Yep. And that would skip the first row of actual data to then start showing that
Right,
from the second row.
right, because the first thing will be a piece of dummy data, and then you'll just have a static, like the static header labels in there, and then the second row on will be the actual search.
So you're saying from the database level, we need to have a dummy entry on number 1.
Just a dummy entry, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what we were.
Just like we created, but we couldn't link it. So that's perfect.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ritesh, are you ready?
Yes.
What's that?
So let me share my screen. So it's here. So this is our website, and we have not added any map location or something like that, but it still asks for location. Any idea why and how do we remove it if possible?
So you're not meaning to ask for the location. I'm not sure why it would be asking for it. Let's just go to that page.
Editor?
Yeah, just go to actually go to the workflows, because I would assume you would. Our address is clicked. Maybe is there something in there? So you're not, are you meaning to do anything with locations at all?
No, because we all work remotely, so there is nothing that we can do with the location.
Oh,
But
no, but
I'm
it's asking, no, like it's asking you for your location. Yeah.
Okay. Phone.
So I think if you go on your design page, maybe there's an element there.
Okay. I think I got it. I think, yeah, you are right. Subscription price somewhere here, maybe. Location.
We could probably use the app search tool.
Oh, yeah.
So when the action or element has to do with location. That's weird.
Maybe 1 minute. This one. Geographic position.
That's probably it. So in order to run that, it's going to have to ask for permission.
Yeah.
I mean, if they give permission, then it's helpful. But if they don't, then.
Yeah, right. Correct. Maybe. Yeah, now it's not. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Alexandria?
Yes.
Any more questions?
I always have questions.
Good.
I think I want to just check the, let me look at it real quick. Membership. The payment piece, because I kind of set it up, but I don't actually think it's working.
Okay.
Let me just double check here. Yeah. Okay. So let me share my screen. One second. Okay. So
Oh,
I
just
have-
before you begin, when we're working with payments, sometimes we'll go into the plugins page
yes,
and I don't want to see your, I don't want to see API keys. So,
I know the last time that happened. Okay, let me get it elsewhere real quick.
mhm. We're working on we're working on our extension where we will prevent that from happening. So you'll be able to use our extension and then share freely your plugins page because your API keys won't show. Because honestly, we don't know why those fields show to begin with.
Yeah, there should be a, okay. Secret development. Sorry guys, 1 second. Other Stripe ones too. No keys. So here, nope, that's not it. So basically I have them confirm the subscription.
Mhm.
So they confirm and then confirm and pay. And then sorry, add payment is where it is. So I make changes. The issue that I had was to get the payment, the amount. And so that wasn't working. And then really it's only like, now it's only one set amount versus them having a different, like there's different subscription prices and it changing here based on what they select there. So
Got it. So what they select, I would probably store as a custom state, or even go ahead and make the change in the database, like if you were auto binding it. And then typically what I would recommend is to use option sets, right? For the choices. Are you using option sets at all?
I don't think I, here, let me, so you guys can see. I don't know if it will let it.
So they're choosing from the drop down, the subscription edition.
Yeah. So they're choosing this one, or this one, right? So like right now, the only one that we're selling is 3 months. So it's technically fine, but I would like to have it already set up where all of these work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm doing that. And then.
And where does that drop down get those values from?
Question, let's see. this. Nope. They're
Yep,
manual.
that's just manual. Okay, so what we would want to do is go into your go into data and then go into option sets. And then you would make a new option set for subscription type.
So payment. Oh, payment method says subscription type.
Yep. And now you would put your different options here as the names of them here. And then, yep.
Number or text?
So actually cancel that out, because what we want to do is where it says new option. That's where you want to type the name of the different subscriptions. Then go ahead and click create, and then click where it says new attribute, and then say price. And then the attribute type would be a number. And you can go ahead and click create. Now, if you see where next to where it says 3-month subscription, it says modify attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can put the price for the 3-month subscription there.
Okay.
Now, are you using subscriptions in Stripe to set up your subscriptions, or are you just planning on charging the card on file every month yourself?
So I have the Stripe products set up already and where it's subscription, but at the with this, let's see, it was so I could only figure out how to do it where it collects the information and then it pays, but it's not actually pulling. Yeah, I didn't figure out how to pull it as a product in Stripe, even though the Stripe API is connected or was connected.
Got it. Okay, so the way you're offering, so 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months, is that the structure?
Yes, and then they pay it all at once and then it renews in like 3 months.
Right, got it. Okay, so it's probably easier to set this up right now in Bubble itself rather than using Stripe subscriptions. I think technically the best practice is probably to go through Stripe, but the way you have it should be fine. So if we go, so what you would want to do is you'd want to kick that into a
option set.
Recurring workflow probably. Yeah, so the option set definitely for choosing which one that they want. And then you're going to use that as your reference in the workflow as opposed to the static amount where it said 117. So if you change your static choices to dynamic choices, and then type of choices is going to be the subscription type. And then all subscription type. And then current options display. And then you can also, for the option caption, then click outside of the display on the very right-hand side where it says display, because you're going to add a space and then you're going to add the price.
Oh, and I just
Current options price. Yeah, you would put a space and then probably a $sign and then format it as a price so that they'd be able to see it exactly right. But you can format that in a little bit. So now those options will be available to you in your workflow, like whichever one that they selected. will be
Okay.
available to you in the workflow. So if you go to charge, so where it says 117, now you can delete that and click that drop down's value. Value, and then click more. That might not be the right drop down.
Yeah, let me see if it's which one is that one? Choose option. Here it is, subscription edition choice.
Yeah, and then price.
Okay.
Yep. And that way the price will change in terms of how much you're charging them. But
Okay.
what we really want to do is set up a recursive workflow.
Okay.
And what you want to do is go to your option sets again in data option set and make another attribute.
No, another attribute.
And you'll say frequency and then probably in parentheses months. Yep. And then attribute type will be a number. And then for your 3 month, it'll be 3. Because now what we want to do is if you go into your backend workflows, so click where it says page fixed membership, go up about 2 inches from where you are. Yep, click there. And then you don't have backend workflow set up, so go ahead and click out of there and go to settings. Go to API. Check enable workflow API. Yep. And now go back to where you were, the fixed membership, and click backend workflows at the very bottom.
Okay.
Yep. So you'll click to add a backend workflow. And the reason we're doing a backend workflow is because it's the only way to get things done when the user's not actually on your page. So for recurring subscriptions, you don't want them to have to sign in order to charge their card. So you have to set it to run when they're not on the page. So if you click new API workflow, and then you're gonna just say subscription. I would probably make it all lowercase. And then we never use spaces in here either. We always use underscores instead of spaces.
Not spelled today. Okay.
Yep. And then click to add actually add a parameter. Yep. And so let's see, what would they, so you'd need type. So subscription type.
Oh, sorry.
And I don't know if you can grab option sets in your type here. Let's just see if type text. So where it says text, the drop down, let's see if it has the subscription. Yep, it does. So subscription type, and then add a new parameter. Actually, I guess you wouldn't need to add the new parameter. So go ahead and delete that, because all we need, we'll have the current user and we'll have the subscription type. So the next thing would be to add an action. Do you already have an invoice thing in your database or not yet?
I do not yet.
Okay. So that would be the next step after that is we'd create an invoice of the things that you want to keep track of in your database, and then and you'd create the invoice using the subscription type that you pass in through the parameter, right? Yep. And then,
And we want it to be public API workflow.
yep, that's fine. Nobody's going to know it's there, so it's fine. And then, yeah, do you want me to show you the rest real quick?
Yeah. And then what I'll do is I'll do the invoice and then I'll watch the video again and like put it all together.
Yeah. So we'll do here is go into data, and I don't know if I have an invoice thing yet. So invoice, and so in the invoice, we're going to have an amount, which will be a number. We'll have the charge ID, which is going to be a text. And then, yeah, I think we'll probably have an owner of type user. So those are the basic things. The charge ID, when it's populated, that's when it's going to tell you you actually charged their card, right? So then in the option sets, I'm going to have encryption type. And in here, I have 3 month. See number and price number. So now on the back end, just like you have it, subscription. So I'm going to create a new thing, which will be an invoice. And the amount will be types price. The charge ID is going to be, we're going to leave it empty for now. The owner will be current user. And then you'll set the other fields that you'll figure out what you want to keep track of. And then the next field here, I don't actually have it set up for payments. So you'll use that same payments thing before. So if I just go, I don't have Stripe. Come on, Bubble. I really think all they would have to do is deselect all of these things to begin with.
I so agree with that.
And then we would be off to a much better start. So subscriptions, so here the payment is going to be charge a user using the saved credit card. And the charged user will be the current user. And the amount will be the type price. And then description and statement, just that all of that would be the same. And then current users, Stripe, credit card ID here. So this is going to run and charge their card.
Okay.
Then the next thing you are going to do is you're going to make changes to a thing. This is what you want to change. You want to change the result of step 1. You want the charge ID to be results of step 2's charge ID.
Okay.
And at the end of that, if it's filled in, then their credit card was charged. And if it's not filled in, it failed, essentially. I don't know why Stripe and Bubble, when they were creating their plugin, didn't decide to give us access to the status. It doesn't make any sense to me. But what I've discovered is if it's empty, then it didn't work. If it's not empty, then it did work, right? So now the next step here is to schedule this to run again. So you'd come to custom events, schedule the API workflow, and you'll say current date and time, and then you'll say plus months, and then it'll be types frequency. So then it doesn't matter which subscription they chose, it'll pick up the frequency that it's supposed to charge them. And then the type will just be type. And then that will go forever until you stop it.
Okay. And then is there a way to set up so that I don't have to like go in the back end and check where it sends a notification if the charge ID fails?
Mm-hmm.
Like if the charge ID is empty, to send me an email?
Yep. So when results of step 2 charge ID is empty, you can send yourself an email.
Okay.
Yep. And then that will just keep running. So how do you schedule this to begin with is you would do that from the front end. So subscribe a user. And so I'm just going to do it with a button, right? So custom events, schedule API workflow. It will be subscription, current date and time, and then the type. Right now we just have one, but it would be that drop-downs value.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's something important. What you want to do is make changes to thing, current user, and then we'll add a field here called subscription workflow of type text. And then you'll say the result of this step 1. And that will save the ID of the workflow for you, because if they ever change their subscription, you're going to need to cancel that workflow.
Oh, okay.
And the same thing. And then the other thing is we'd also have to do that in the back end here when we create the subscription here. So when we go in here, we can probably see here workflow. No, we probably have to set it in a separate one.
For the subscription cancellation, you mean?
Yeah, because that'll only be good for that one ID. When it schedules it again, it'll create a new one. So what you'd need is another workflow here to store that. Update subscription sub workflow. Can you get off? My daughter, sorry about that. So here, workflow ID is text. And then when we schedule it, all we want to do is make changes to the current user. Equals workflow ID. And then here, after we schedule this one, we'll schedule the next one. BI workflow, what do they call it? Update.
I think it's WF.
Yep. So current date and time, and we would just say results of step 5. And that way, whenever they like change their subscription, you can run an action to cancel a workflow, and this is the ID you would provide to cancel it, and then you could schedule a new one.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of work, but I can do it.
Yes, you can. Yeah, we just started talking about it today. We're going to be creating some services for done for you Stripe implementation. We're not quite ready for it, but we're doing a course, and then we'll have several different like setups that you can choose from, and the whole
That would be
nine.
amazing. Stripe is very, we love it,
Intimidating?
but just complicated. Although Integromat, I need to actually like get on that more, because I feel like if I actually learn that, my life would be easier with all of the things that need to talk to each other, including Bubble sometimes.
Mm. Oh.
Okay.
Well, we're going to move into after hours. Nobody go anywhere. If you are watching the replay, after hours is what happens when we turn off the recorder, and that way, if anything sensitive needs to be shared, it can be shared just among the members. But you have to be a member to come to after hours. So go sign up at pronocoders.com so you can come to our next after hours session.